Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented and analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows and movies in anime, currently featuring Steven Universe and Miraculous Ladybug, among others. I'm Dylan Nyson, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hello.
Today, Delaney and I will be discussing episode 13 of Miraculous Ladybug, the Mime, aka Pantomime of For a Daughter. I think the Mime's a better title in English, but that's...
I agree.
Yeah.
Shockingly.
So, no, this episode did not yet air in the United States. It was scheduled to several weeks ago, and then Nick pulled it. And it doesn't seem like Nick's canceled the show or whatever. Not that they have the power to do that. Just like, not that they would. It doesn't seem like they're going to stop showing it, but they've given no indication when they will be resuming showing the dub. Previous to this podcast, we've been covering exclusively the dub, but at this point, I'm too exasperated with Nick to continue with that, and it's just it might be months. Like, I don't want to stop our coverage for months, so what Delaney and I are going to do is we're going to go through normally the French version of the show. We're going to do one episode a week. We're going to follow the airing schedule from when it was on in France, and eventually we'll catch up. I think it looks like this week either Canada or France is getting the last episode of the show of the season, which isn't actually the finale, just like the last one they're showing. So that's
because that's
cool.
not confusing.
But so like hopefully Delaney and I will catch up by season 2. There you go. So we'll just do one a week here. Except this week we're not covering the French version. We're covering the Korean version of this episode because this episode aired in Korea first, and therefore I could not find subs for the French version. I only saw the subs version of the Korean version because, it was more relevant to the fans at the time because it aired first. So today we're covering the Korean version of the Mime, episode 13. In the future, we'll go week by week through the French version of the show. Okay. That's plenty confusing, but there we go. So we're going to talk about...
We're covering the show.
We're covering the show. We're going to talk about this episode, and we're also going to spend a lot of time, I think, talking about the Korean... dub? I don't know. Like we'll say the dub, the Korean dub version of this, because it's the first time Delaney and I have experienced that.
Yes.
You can check us out at overlyanimated.com, or you can search for Overly Animated on iTunes and subscribe to us there, or search for Overly Animated on your favorite podcatcher. Let's get into. We're gonna call it the Mime. I think it was called I think it's like the direct translation would be Pantomime for a Daughter, but the ones where we have like a coherent English title, we'll just call it that. And yeah, so first let's talk about brief thoughts about the episode, then we'll talk about brief thoughts about the Korean dub, and then we'll get into specifics of the episode. So Delaney, what did you think in general of the Mime?
I liked it. It was a little and see, it's weird calling an episode of this show slow because like Ladybug is never slow, but I thought this episode was a little slow. They did something, I don't know if it's like, it's not new. I don't know. We haven't watched Ladybug in a little bit, and I don't know if it's just because, like, oh, we're watching Ladybug, gotta get used to it, or if it's, like, this episode was different narratively, I think, than the rest, or at least from the usual routine of Ladybug. But I liked it. It was an interesting villain. I don't know, there were some neat things going on. Of course, the ending to the episode is spectacular.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Oh no, any episode that has a lot of Alia in it is a quality episode,
Oh, yeah.
and this is one of those episodes.
Definitely a big Maralia ending and Maralia episode in general. Yeah, I think this was good. Maybe it's just because, again, we haven't seen the show in like 3 weeks, and I was a little bit distracted by the Korean, but
yes.
I kind of have no complaints about this episode. Like, usually I'm like, okay, here's what it's wrong, but I didn't think this was like a top tier episode, but I just generally found it very pleasant. So there is one big complaint later, but it's not really revolving like the structure of the episode or anything, which usually, like, I wasn't as bothered by the reused animation because it was in different language, and
it was in Korean,
and I wasn't as bothered by the dumb use of the yo-yo at the end or the Lucky Charm because it was in Korean. So those were all kind of...
also put it off for like a really, really long time. This episode, this episode was just weirdly structured, not in a bad way. It was just different.
We definitely got back to our 3 minutes in real world, then the super part, then at the end 3 minutes in like the real world again, right? Like, it was this seemed like kind of one of the earlier episodes we saw, but at the same time, this is also apparently one of the later episodes of the season in production.
It's different. Well, they also had more going on with like, which we're going to talk about, is like there was a little bit more to the villain this week than normal.
The villain was, yeah, we'll talk about the villain. I think that maybe this episode's most notable for being, if this fandom did have a ship war between between the straight ship and Maralia. I don't know what to call them in general, like Lady Noir, right? If between Lady Noir and Maralia, then this would be like a notable for having both like prominently in the episode, but I don't think anyone generally cares about Maralia as much as
No.
we do, so
I
it's
think
not.
it's just us.
It's like just us, right?
It's just
Yeah,
us.
I mean, also notable as I made the screenshot of this episode is the is Adrian Ladybug.
That really awkward scene.
Yeah, of them just looking at each other in when he's in the car. It's like our first introduction to that potential aspect of their pairing, right? So I think that was they didn't really do anything with it, but it was one of the more interesting parts of the episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll get into it more. Okay. This is the first time we've seen the show in Korean and not in English. In general, was it weird for you watching this in Korean, and what did you think of the dub?
It wasn't like weird for me watching it in Korean. Like I've watched things in Korean before and I'm used to like reading subtitles, but I think it is a little, especially since like the dub is so like childish and odd that the like gruff Korean voice acting is like kind of distracting.
Specifically for Adrian, right?
Specific, yes, exactly,
Yeah,
for
no, that's
Adrian.
the most notable thing. Adrian
Like
sounds like a
Adrian's,
30-year-old Korean man.
yeah, like it was like what?
I think I've heard people say they don't like his voice in Korean. He sounds older, and I'm not sure if like I also think he doesn't sound 15 in English. Like I think he sounds like
Right.
a 25 year old American man
Yeah.
English, but he sounds like a 35 year old Korean man.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like even older than normal.
it's
Yeah.
really distracting in the Korean. I mean, it's not. I wasn't like super bothered. It was just like it's also one of those like it was our first episode watching in Korean and like you have your moments of oh right I'm watching this in Korean. Also, the subtitles were jarring because there were like curse words in them, and I knew I'm like this is
There was
jarring.
one curse word in the sub. So okay, so there's two aspects to this. One, most people sounded almost exactly the same, which is super surprising to me,
Yeah,
except for Adrian. And
Adrian was just
I'll
like
yeah, a
what?
little bit, and we'll talk about that. But
Yeah,
Marinette sounded like exactly the same. It was really cool.
yeah,
The other aspect is this is not a product of the Korean version. It is a product of the fan subs.
right.
Because remember, we're not watching like
I know.
official subtitles.
Yeah,
So when they put like a curse word in there, it's like that's not really
yeah,
what's happening. It's just their
I know.
interpretation of it. Yeah, the fan subs, that's gonna be a problem. That's one of the
Yeah,
benefits of watching the official English dub is that like we're not
it's
getting
just
questionable translations
yeah,
from. I mean, I thought the fan sub was fine in general, but
yeah.
we'll go over. There was a lot of interesting quotes
Yeah,
to
that's to
go.
say there was that was the thing. It was like I knew it was like it obviously wasn't an official sub, and like there were a few moments. It was like oh, because of
Yeah,
the
so there's the fan sub factor to deal with, and the note to whenever you watch this, or presumably the French version, if assuming there's not official subs, is that uh, yeah, it's a fan sub, right? So it's not exactly what they're saying; it's just about what they're saying. That being said, I did think the fan sub was in general good. In terms of the
yeah
actual dub, I was pretty impressed. Yeah.
yeah. I don't like it. Wouldn't bother me if we like we want to watch the French, but it wouldn't bother me if we continued to watch the Korean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
That's fine.
And
Except
also,
Adrian's voice is just like what, but like you can get used to it. It's fine.
yeah, the
It's
video.
like getting used to Tiki and like her being
Well,
terrifying.
Tiki sounded exactly the same here.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, that was the thing. It all like that was the thing. It didn't like I was watching it and I knew I was watching it in Korean, but in general it was like I'm just watching
No,
Ladybug and there were
until Adrian came on, it wasn't
yeah,
different at all.
like there really wasn't much
Hmm.
like like there wasn't much change. Like it was just oh I'm watching Ladybug. Oh I forgot I'm watching it in Korean.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think the Korean theme song is the best version. If you look for the K-pop, the Korean full theme song,
It's pretty great.
I'd heard it before this, and it's pretty great. We didn't get our version of the video didn't have it beforehand, but yeah, it's. Whenever I watch a Korean episode, I'm definitely gonna go back and watch the the specific full theme of it. Okay, we'll get into the specific voices as we go, but I don't know. Let's go through the episode, I think, because there's a lot of notable stuff that we'll get to by going through the outline here. So, the kind of framing device for the episode, the beginning, the end, is we have Marinette giving Alia like this exclusive interview after she save someone. It's always notable. We don't actually see every single time Ladybug does stuff
Yeah.
because we've seen this a few times now.
She's just always saving the city, just
Just
always.
constantly,
It's
yeah.
nonstop.
And yeah, she gives Aya the interview, and then Aya shows Marinette like the this is my she's super excited. This is my exclusive Ladybug interview, and then Marinette deletes it and is trying to keep the cell phone away
Like,
from her.
what a derp. Like,
So the ending to this
what?
plot is like super dumb because Marinette, why do you think she wouldn't have uploaded it before? Like that's
Like she knows that like you literally break everything you touch. Like she knows.
two, like Tiki, aren't you supposed to be smart? Couldn't you like know that she she would have uploaded it already?
Also, if you delete something on your phone, you can get it back.
Yeah. Also,
Just
it's
need to know.
probably saved to the iCloud. Like if you delete
Yeah,
it, right?
like
So it's
it's not really deleted.
none of this. It was kind of dumb in general. So let's talk about Alya's voice here. I think Alya was much more peppy and excitable in this version than her English voice.
Definitely, like Alia was just like so. Granted, it's also hard. Like we don't really get Alia getting excited in general anyway. Like Alia's just kind of laid back, chill. So I think this is also like her just being. And we know she gets. I mean, she gets really excited about Ladybug. So I think it might also just be the context of the episode,
So I think
and it
maybe
can be both.
I
It can be
I think I've
both.
remarked before how it's weird how it seems like Alya's in the English version it seems like Alya's this big Ladybug fan, but it's almost like in a professional sense.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that it's just a result of the dub, like in the English
yeah.
dub. Because here we have Alya again getting excited about how she's interacted with Ladybug,
And
like
she's flipping
in terms
out.
of a professional sense, but it's much more of like she's like a Ladybug fangirl. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's just the. I mean, we can go. I don't know for sure, but like it's almost certainly not just the episode. It just seems like this version of Alya is more excitable, and this to me, more excitable Alya makes more sense in the context of the show's plot. Like I would assume this is the real version, and I know like I kind of like Alya's English voice a lot more.
Yeah.
But I think that this just makes more logical sense because it never really clicked for me, her being like this Ladybug fan, but only in the sense of like she needs to get the hits on her blog, but not actually like super excited about interacting with Ladybug. I think this version makes more sense, and we'll see when we do the French version in subsequent weeks.
Yeah.
But um, which is I guess the quote unquote the real one, right? So, but
Right.
this I think that this is real Alia, what we saw here.
I
What do you think
just
of real Alia?
well, I mean, I obviously it's fine. I love Alia. It's
It's
great.
still Alia. It's not
Yeah,
that
I
much of a
just
difference,
it's
right?
not really
Yeah.
granted I really do think this has more to do with this episode because like this is really the first step. Like I've been waiting the entire season for like Peter Parker crap and it finally happened in this episode. And I think it has a lot more to do with the context of this episode.
Yeah, I mean,
That
we won't be able
she's
to tell until we
like
watch
we haven't had we
future
just we
episodes.
haven't had anything
I
like
think we've
this.
had somewhat similar things.
Well,
All
we've
you getting excited about,
it's
like here, I got this awesome shot of Ladybug, and
yeah,
like,
but it's been much less like it's not as like oh my god, like I got to interview Ladybug. Like I think it has to do with like
yeah. So I think it would make more sense that she's more excited here, but to me,
yeah,
this seems like significantly more excited.
yeah,
So
I don't know.
I don't know. It's definitely a
Honestly.
notable difference, although in general, she sounded somewhat similar.
Yes.
Marinette though, like just the same. Like I honestly think she just sounds the exact same, which is kind of crazy.
Yes. She's
It'd
just
be cool to
Marinette.
see if her French version.
Yeah.
I did watch a second of the French version for a scene to compare that we'll talk about later. So I do know that she sounds similar in French also. We'll talk about that more next week though. I saw your blog and I was really touched. The fan sub said, and then that later they like do that's really touching. They tried to do that pun with that. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's a pun, but um, that seems like it works. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
And it's better than the cat
What
puns,
do you think?
so
I don't know if they would use touched in English though in the dub.
I see I don't know. Like that's what I don't who
Does
knows?
that make sense? Like I saw your blog and I was really touched. I don't know.
And
It's
well
just,
it does I think it
it
makes
makes sense,
sense.
but like the subtlety of
Well, it
it,
especially makes sense because like it's Marinette, so like that does make sense.
I guess so.
We
Here's
also have no idea what was on the blog, so
yeah, I forgot about this exchange. Marinette says, "God, tell me," after she deletes the video. "God, tell me I didn't delete the video." And then Tiki says, "You
I
didn't
can't
delete the video." So I
I
don't
can't
know.
even tell Tiki. Like, what are you here for,
I
Tiki?
don't know if Marinette actually said God. I assume so because they like why else would they put that in the subtitles? But like Tiki responded to God. Like let's note that here.
My thing is, I don't think it's. Well, I mean, I'll have to go back and watch more of like the English dub because like I've had problems with this in the past with like this happens in fan fiction a lot where you have like a show where there is no mention of God or any sort of religion at all, but
Yeah,
then it'll get
it's.
fan
I
fiction
mean,
and they say,
whatever.
"Oh my God, I don't think she said that," and I don't think she's ever said it in English dub.
She didn't say it in English. Doesn't mean that like they could have just removed it from English too. Like, again, we're walking we're dealing with
Yeah,
like two unofficial versions here, so it's hard to tell.
we're dealing with
Well,
like
that being said, the English version is like official because it's like dubbed
yeah
by them, but
yeah
whatever. So I just thought the way that was translated is hilarious. She could have just said
it
"gosh,"
is
right? If you replace
yeah
God with "gosh," then this
yeah.
pun doesn't work.
I mean,
But
it is hilarious that she responded to it, but I also think
I
she
also
did the second.
I don't think that's what happened, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't. I mean, it does. Obviously it's an indirect way of interpreting it anyway, but it's just really funny.
I mean it's hilarious because Tiki's terrifying.
Yeah.
So
Tiki, I don't know if she was super
also,
terrifying in this
well, it's
episode,
really funny
but she
to
was
me
just
that
super
Tiki.
like not helpful. And
And that's what I was like. Tiki was just really used. Like I'm like Tiki, are like is Plog like are you becoming Plog? I don't really. Well, no, she's still not as useless as Plog is. But
yeah,
it was really funny to me that she responded at all. Like Tiki was, and Tiki was even just like, okay, do whatever you want, but I'm just gonna tell you I told you so in like 15 minutes. Like Tiki, wow, like taking back seat much, and usually Tiki's like in her face, especially like about the diary. Like Tiki, like, can you pick a lane? Like, can you like decide how you're gonna be?
there's another Tiki moment in a second, so we'll get back to this. But we have like this weird. The show sometimes does weird animation things. The chalk like
Yeah,
version above Marinette's head of the future
I
conversation.
liked
I
that.
thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, I like when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then I don't know who is Jack in this. Like she made up some person.
The pigeon.
The pigeon. Oh yeah, and then she's a
She named the
Anyang
pigeon.
Jaku. This is the okay. So I don't watch that much stuff in Korean, and Anyang is like this awesome joke from Arrested Development. So it's like hello in Korean, and it's just, there's this incredibly dumb joke in Arrested Development. So I'm saying Anyang, that's super jarring to me, which is like not okay. But yeah, and it's I think this is I felt similar to like watching this in Japanese, even though they're like obviously different languages. Like Jaku, that would be how like they would say that too, and it's I don't know. It's like this. It seemed much more anime-y. I don't know if that's I think that's fair. Like I think that it's sounded closer to Japanese than it did watching it much more in English. It's I don't know. Did you have that affect the show like that? Did that like affect the events of the show at all to you? Like maybe it's seeming closer to an anime than to like an American show.
Yes, I mean sometimes, especially well, specifically like not even like dialogue, but like sometimes the animation. Like they'll do something and I'm like, okay, am I watching an anime?
Well, yeah, but like here, it was actually we actually were watching it in a foreign language actually
Yeah,
before we weren't, right?
I do think it does like shape your experience a little bit, especially like granted, I don't watch anime. Like I very little watch
Very, very,
shows
very
and other like
little watch.
very
Yeah.
don't watch. It doesn't happen. I don't watch like shows in Japanese or Korean. I mean I have watched shows in Korean before, but it's happened so little that I don't really like have any like true like fallback experience. But I do think that it can shape and like when you have like connotations to things like oh I'm watching this with subtitles and that kind of thing that can happen that it can make it feel more anime-ish and impact your
I
viewing.
think it's gonna be interesting watching the French version because it's like neither of
Yes.
those two. Yeah.
You know, watching in
Yeah.
French will be very interesting,
Yeah.
I
We'll
think.
see. And we'll see next week. We have Milen's.
Yeah.
She's there and her dad's there. Fred Hopperell is the villain. He's a mime. He's a mime TV show. It kind of seems like, but they're performing and they're
I didn't
performing
really
under the Eiffel Tower, which I don't know if that's a thing or not. And that was kind of jarring watching that. It just light up randomly at the end.
Yeah,
Um,
that was weird. I mean, I
Marinette
know it does that, but like it was weird.
Marinette made him a hat because and like a reminder that Marinette actually like makes hats and stuff.
Yeah, Marinette actually does things.
Yeah, we hadn't seen that like in 10 episodes.
Right.
And then we had this whole plot of his understudy scheming with their manager Sarah, who was apparently voiced by like a prominent person in the French version, but not here. So,
Yeah.
that whole thing was I don't know, wasn't notable enough to talk much about. I don't think anything with.
Well, it was different, I think. Like typically we don't get as much like time with the villains as we did here and actually like I think this is the first time we had like this focus on like why the villain became the villain and he didn't even do anything. Like it wasn't his fault. It was just this jerk who like plotted all of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've had that before. That the villain isn't doing anything wrong when they get
Yeah.
akumatized; they're just experiencing
Well,
like,
I think
yeah,
it's different here in that we literally have like someone else, and it's
yeah,
their
yeah. No, we haven't really had someone else slighting them to this extent before. I agree. Um, Tiki, Marinette's like, I'm gonna go film the video in the same spot, and
like
oh my god,
why
like she starts to do it, and then it just never pays off, I guess. And then
it
Tiki's
falls in the
like,
trash can and the cat.
he's
So
like,
good.
Marinette, be honest. You're digging your own grave. That's the menacing Tiki line of the day. I don't know.
Missing Tiki
That's
line.
like the
Digging your
expression
grave.
they chose to use for that line, but
Yeah.
like Tiki saying you're digging your own grave, no, that's like not okay. Tiki's like definitely gonna order someone to dig their own grave at some point, and then just like use her ancient omniscient powers to zap them, and then they fall into the grave, and then they're dead and they're buried. So that's all of that is what I pictured when she said
Dylan has a lot of deep-seated issues with Tiki.
that.
As you
We
can,
yeah, it was two. We had Tiki saying being God and the grave thing,
it's
and
too much.
both of those like probably aren't going to be dubbed into English in the same way. So it's
No,
interesting
no.
that we got both of them. She might have said digging your own grave. That's a
I
solid.
mean, she might have. She might have said that.
It's like when they use an expression in the original, and you have to try to figure out how to use a similar expression when you're dubbing it. That
Yeah.
type of thing. Hawkmoth sounded very similar, I think.
The Hawkmoth scene was slower than usual. Usually we like just like go really really fast through Hawkmoth, but I feel like there was actually like a pause.
I think it was like shorter than normal, but there weren't as many like shots, like changes, and he wasn't saying as much. I guess I don't know.
Maybe. I think maybe he just wasn't talking the whole time. But for
Yeah.
me, it felt like it took forever, and I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
Hawkmoth, like, hurry up.
I think his voice though similar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was the same.
Um, the villain, the guy becomes Mime Man.
My
Definitely not
man.
how it's gonna be in English. It's gonna be the
Yeah.
mime. Yeah. Marinette was already transformed from filming the video, and then she's already there. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was different, and also we didn't have the whole like, who is it? It was immediately I recognized that hat.
Yeah, and again, it's not that she just obviously recognized by talking to the same person because he looks the same. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
she just makes the connection right away.
But then when they're like at the bus, it's like Fred. Like, okay, this is the first time this has happened.
Yeah, that's true. They did recognize him. Yeah, I don't. I guess it was because of the hat or something. I don't know, but like
I don't. It's weird.
their internal logic, I think, is definitely stretching for here.
No, I was gonna say this episode is really like breaking the internal logic, but when it's like literally they don't recognize each other in their masks, even though they look the same. They're just cat ears and like masks. And then he shows up to the performance. He's like, "Oh, good, I didn't want to be here alone." Like, really?
I mean, the biggest jarring thing, but it was Marinette like running back and forth with Ollie at the end. We'll get to that.
That was
Yeah,
so
it
good.
was so dumb, but good. Adrian, yeah, we talked about how he sounds 30. He's like, Dad's not
Yes.
coming again, is he? And this is the first time we've had Adrian's,
Yeah.
him lamenting about his dad in a while. Of course, the prevailing theory that most people have said, Adrian's dad, Hawkmoth. I assume that'll pay off
Yes.
for us when we watch I don't know, at some
That's
point.
yep. So
Ladybug and yeah, Ladybug Adrian. What was the ship called? This was Ladrian, right? I think.
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
this is the one that's most appealing to me out of the four combinations. So I was kind of interested in this, but they just look at each other.
Yeah.
Like it slows down for slow motion for no, like I guess it means something to both of them, but like, so what?
It's yeah.
Just
It was
obviously
like
they're not going to do anything with it. Plog I think sounds exactly the same.
yeah.
That was interesting. I thought
There was no T, shockingly.
they made Plog in English sound like obnoxious because they do that a lot of times for English versions of things, but no, he
Yeah.
just sounds like it in Korean too.
Yeah. No,
Um,
he's just obnoxious.
one thing I wanted to note. So we've gotten away with calling Cat Noir because that's his name in English. It's actually CAT Cat. But do we have to like call him like Chat now because we're not viewing?
See, I've had this problem the entire time because I knew that's what he is. He's Jack Noir.
But he
'cause
actually is Cat Noir in English though. So
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
Like
know.
I think calling him Cat Noir in the English dub is like a good decision because that makes much more
Yes.
sense.
And it's
CAT.
not as confusing.
So I
Just
think
poor
that I
English.
kind of want to call him still Cat Noir because that's what we've been calling
Yeah.
him and that's what I'm used to.
I mean, I'm fine calling him Cat Noir. I'm just glad you took that decision out of my hands because when we started podcasting, I was like, am I going to call him Cat or Chat? I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
Listeners tell us. I assume this will be more relevant when we watch the French version, right?
Yeah.
But Let us know what you think of that. Now that we're going past the dub, now here we have a bunch of interesting dialogue choices. Don't worry, I'll spank him for you.
Just so much weird dialogue.
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
We
Okay.
have no silly kitty, which I liked. I don't think they would say that in English. I think they'd say cat,
No.
kitty, but I really like silly.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that you should say kitty more because it's
Yes.
like more demeaning to him, which is I'm all in favor of that.
Same.
We have Adrian saying, "I know they say open top cars are cool, but this is a bit much, don't you think?" To him
Well, before
driving.
that, he was like, "Where are your hands?" or something to,
Oh, I don't remember that.
when the mom grabbed Marinette,
Okay.
like when they were like fighting, and then there was lines like, "Where do you think you're?" I can't even remember the exact line, but I was like, "Oh, okay." It was weird. It was
Yeah.
before the spank line.
The spank line that was the most notable. Yeah, this one, I think the open top cars one was a good choice. So okay, so we have here's like the most prominent scene to me was the scene where I don't even remember the context, like, but Adrian like grabs her and then like does his dumb staff thing up to the top
Yeah,
high and then they fall down and but what's notable to me is like their exchange during this, and I watched it again back in French for a reason that I'll say in a minute, and it seems much shorter than I remember, but I guess this is a big shipping moment because like he's being bold and stuff, but um to me this was the most submissive I've seen Marinette act in the show when interacting with Cat Noir.
like she usually just like shoves him away or just says something like rude to
Did you get
him.
that impression too when you were watching?
That it was like weird, yes, because typically she was like, "Oh, like I could have done, I do this with my yo-yo, right?" But it wasn't really the typical
But
like,
it's not like push him away. I can just do this
yeah,
Mayo. She just said that while it was happening already, right?
yeah. It was a
Um
little weird.
yeah, so I'm not a big fan of this because considering I
Same.
want more bold and Marinette. And okay, warning generalizing about to happen, but one of the general talking points, and I don't know this myself. I know much more about Japanese culture through watching a lot of anime than than Korean culture. But um, generally, a talking point you'll hear about Korean culture is how men in Korea expect women to be very submissive. And I'm not putting a truth value on that. I don't know, but when I saw it made sense to me that they might portray this dynamic as more of a as less bold of a ladybug than in other cultures because of the expectations relative to Korea. Um, so I thought, okay, I'll watch the scene in French and see if it plays it differently. And I did, and and I think like not really. Granted, I didn't have the dialogue because again, no French subs, but I think that Marinette did sound a little less submissive in the French version. But at the same time, the circumstances were the same, right? So obviously, it's not
Yeah.
changed that much. But I do think that she sounded slightly like less bold than, and she was like I think she was talking kind of normally in the French version, whereas here, granted, I don't have a baseline for that. Whereas here,
Yeah.
I feel like she went a lot less like less. I don't know. I can't see that being the same in English. We'll see whenever the dub comes out, but it was very jarring. Like, and I think it was also a voice acting choice too,
Yeah.
which I'm not a big fan of here. Yeah, I don't know.
It's also like, and it's also hard to say too with like, given this was a fan done sub, that
Right. I
how
mean,
most of the fans are inclined as
it
well.
seems like
It's
it was
difficult to
right
see.
considering we saw what was happening too, right?
Yeah, no, of
So
course.
I don't know.
But at the same time, like we don't like it. There are so many variables going on
There's
at
a
the
lot of
moment
stuff
that
to take
it's
into account.
really hard.
We're not even watching an official version, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think of that. At the very least, she sounded more subdued, I think.
Grant, I will say we've had moments like because they do like even though most of the time Ladybug is like, "Oh my God, go away, I hate you." Like we do have these moments where like it's they want you to ship them and they're very shippable and they have these moments like
They
this and I
want you
don't
to
think
ship them this show, really?
never,
No.
but
No,
like I
they've had
do think
moments where she's
like
like
they
gone
have
along
had
with his
moments.
stuff before, right?
This was weird though because like typically it's like he's useless and Ladybug's just doing everything.
He was like actively doing something, and I don't know if like we've had her like just let him
In
like
general,
touch
she
her
like
this long before.
yeah, general he she pushes him away like honestly, I was shocked they get to the top and she didn't like just like knock him
Yeah,
over.
it was very jarring, I think. And I don't know, there's a lot of factors.
And especially like the background, they were over the city and it's Paris, blah blah
And I'm not
blah.
making like a moral judgment as opposed
Yeah,
like I'm not saying Cat Noir was behaving despicably. I think it
yeah.
wasn't necessarily
It
like
was just it was just odd for Marinette not to react the way we normally see her react, which is like, "Oh my God, why are you touching me? Go
I mean, if we
away."
do want to make a moral judgment, then I think that he should have asked her before that. But
Yeah,
but like that's not the point of even what I'm saying, right? Like
yeah.
it's just it was different from what we've normally seen.
Because typically Marinette's the one who like Ladybug's grabs Cat and then like they go off and do something.
I was much more into the the Ladrian look than this scene in terms of potential shipping moments. Ladrian over Lady Noir for me.
I don't ship Lady Nora at all, so
I mean, that's why. What about Ladrian?
uh, mm,
We haven't seen anything except this one look, so who
yeah,
knows yet?
and I just
I just think it was intriguing.
it
We'll
was
see. Uh, okay, so okay, another more interesting dialogue. I can't imagine this will be in the dub. It makes sense in the context of the show, but then Cat Noir says, "Now I understand why they say it's the quiet ones you should be afraid of."
like, whoa.
That is something people say,
Yeah, it is
and it
something people
does make
say.
sense in the context of the show. But that's
Yeah,
like kind of not like
it's like what?
PC at all, right? Like
No,
that's not making it into
like
the dub.
what?
Like I guess like maybe that's more acceptable in French culture. That could have been in the original, but
Yeah,
that's like not a good line to say.
just wow.
That's not endearing me to
No,
Adrian anymore, because that kind of makes sense with his personality to me, with like
yeah,
his pseudo like
like bravado and
bravado.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Interestingly, they need to get the villain angry. I think this is different than what we've seen before. They're like make him angry.
They're
Bug
literally like, let's break the Eiffel Tower so we can get his hat. Like, okay,
Bugging
this is
people's a specialty of yours, says what Ladybug to
yeah.
Catmar. Yeah,
And
it's
he's like,
I
you're right.
agree. Yeah, it's true.
He's like, yo, can't
They
argue.
cut down the Eiffel Tower. It's the dumbest thing.
So that's ridiculous. This was the absolute dumbest thing that's ever happened in Ladybug.
No, I think so. Yeah, it's like
Like, what?
there's been dumb things that have happened, but this is like
Like,
this
they're
is
like, okay, let's
dumbest.
make him mad. We're gonna let him break the Eiffel Tower. I mean, it makes sense because obviously they fix it every time, but like, what? It's such a weird mechanism because, like, it's a like legitimate thing in like the Avengers and like the MCU. Like, okay, you saved us, yeah, but you broke everything. We hate you. You cost the city like $500 million in damage, and you don't like have a job. But here it's like, oh, they can do whatever they want because it just gets fixed. Like what?
It
Like the
kind of makes like
dumbest.
it actually like kind of makes sense in terms of how
Like
to
it
defeat him,
works,
but it's just
but
so stupid. It's just like, come on.
they literally cut the Eiffel
Yeah.
Tower in half.
It's
Like what?
I mean, I don't it like it didn't I don't like it doesn't make me dislike the episode. It's just notably
Yeah,
very dumb.
it was just like what? Like the entire time I was like, this is stupid.
And oh yeah, and this was based and it's based on the concept that Marinette noted earlier in the episode. He can only do one pantomime at a time, so it does make sense. Get him if he has to hold up the thing, then yeah. Um,
Also, talk about powerful. Like he's doing like
oh yeah, let's
his
talk
mom.
about hit the villain for a second. Another super OP villain. He is limited
Yes.
by one thing at a time, but he can just literally just do anything.
Which this is really like I think the first time we've had like a weakness for one of the villains. Like
I did like that, yeah, and I like Marinette finding out the weakness too.
yes,
Unlike Lucky Charm, which is given to her by the Ladybug gods, right? This one
yeah.
is like her figuring that out.
Well, I don't. I mean, we still
We
have
still don't really know if that's her figuring it
no,
out or
yeah,
not, but yeah.
it's
Um,
confusing.
okay, differences in language here. We have time to heal evil instead of de-evilize.
Thank God,
Better,
so much
better, yeah.
better, much
But
better.
on the other hand, we have mission accomplished instead of pound it. And I actually like pound it a lot better.
Pound it's better.
Like
I had that thought when I was like, pound it's
it's
better.
it's like super cultural contextual.
Yeah,
It just works much better for like American culture, but pound it is perfect for that scene. It's like
yes,
how do they pound it every time and not say pound it? Like
yeah, exactly. Like
I mean, like pound it is like it's is like a little bit out of style, right? I don't know if people say that anymore,
yeah,
but
no, they don't really.
it's
But
close enough that like it's just really perfect.
well, it's fine for a kid show.
Yeah.
Like it works.
Mission accomplished. Much worse.
Also,
Yeah.
yeah, no, and they're also like both weird, like and dorky as crap. So like it
Yeah.
works.
So yeah. So
Yeah,
it would make
they're
sense that they're
so
like
lame.
5 years behind on Pound It, right?
Yeah, no, it
It would
works.
work. Yeah. Um, what do we have? Date for the performance. Oh yeah, Adrian. What? Cat Noir's like, come with me to the performance, and then she's like, I have other things to do. Is that what that is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then she like just like disappears
yeah.
behind the Eiffel Tower.
And then the Eiffel Tower glows up, which at the time really confused me. Like, why did the Eiffel Tower glow up? And then later it seems like it's for the performance, but
Well,
it seems like it just randomly happened.
no, the Eiffel. The reason it didn't like it shocked me visually, but I know why it happens. Every night the Eiffel Tower lights up.
Because it got nighttime. Just it happened,
Yes,
and
that's why.
when
Yeah,
Marinette
when
ran
it's
under it, like
yes,
that's okay.
yes.
It was
When
jarring.
it's night, the Eiffel Tower lights up.
Yeah. Okay. I just
So
its timer went off and like
it's timer.
it hit 7 o'clock, so it blew up.
Yeah, it was like,
Okay.
ooh.
Um. Yeah. They just the performance on the Eiffel Tower. Adrian's there, and then Marinette just has the most dorky smile when he sits next to her. Right.
And then Olia's just like sigh.
Always like, when will you discover your true feelings for me?
Olia's like, "Where's my phone, yo?
Oh yeah.
Like
Well, that's really
my
what it
phone."
is. Yeah. I just watched a show sitting next to Adrian. Alia says, if you liked it so much, then call him, ask him to see a movie. Like, for real, girl, right?
Like exactly. Like come
This is not
on.
that hard, you know? And I
Like,
think Alia said similar
girl.
things before, right? It's just like,
You know, all
why
the
don't
time
you just
Olia's
ask him out?
just do this, and then of course Marinette's like, "No."
Yeah.
It's like this really isn't that hard.
Uh, oh, that reminds me, I have something to tell you, Alia.
I'm madly in love with you.
Marinette says, I'll accept any punishment you give me. Raise eyebrows, raise eyebrows. That's what, yeah, I was into that line. I'm your best friend, Alia, you know. Alia, you know. Just this whole conversation is the best. And she's like,
It
I already
is.
uploaded it. And then they hug and then like hand around her. And then she's like, I'll make it up to you. And then they have they have an interview with
Well,
Ladybug.
she's like, I think there's a surprise for you inside on
Yeah,
stage. Like,
okay, okay.
really?
Okay, let's talk about this because one, Alia's not going to question how Marinette set this up. Two, she's not going to like realize Marinette running back and forth. Like this is like again,
Marinette has to be quick. Like, Marinette does this all the time, just literally sprints everywhere. And it's like, how? Like, girl, go on the track team.
and
Like,
even if you accept this part, then just Alia has to question her about how she knows Ladybug and she was at this.
I hope it turns into like Supergirl Peter Parker, where it's like, oh, I just know her. We're just really good
At this
friends.
point, if Alia does not bring this up, like logically, she should know that
Yeah.
Marinette is Ladybug.
Like,
Like,
she
I
has
actually
to.
think that this is like illogical to the point where it just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Like
Yeah.
them ignoring it from now on.
Wait, no, because Alia has questioned it before. I mean, Alia was like this close to figuring out that like during in the Pharaoh episode that it was that like so close to figuring it out, like literally right there. Had her textbook, everything.
Yeah,
Like it's
it's
at this point she has to question it.
I
Like
yeah I'm. Mhm. It's and I'm not. It didn't like ruin the episode, but it's. I think this is like purely nonsensical and not to an enjoyable.
it's
Yeah.
getting to the point where it's ridiculous.
But that being said, it kind of was overshadowed by how incredible the scene was. You know.
Granted, I also watched Hannah Montana, and I've lived that, and
Let's
it'll be
hold this
okay.
to higher standards than Hannah Montana.
Listen, Hannah Montana was pretty great. Okay,
Listen,
I hate you.
listen. This I struck a nerve there with insulting Hannah Montana. I apologize.
You did. You struck a nerve.
This is
12-year-old me is ticked.
and again with this Alia like more excitable thing. This is probably going to be the best moment of my life, she says. Like,
Yes.
and I think that's a little. Yeah, I really want to like watch a few specific lines from this in English to see how they play it
Yeah.
because it's very different
Yeah.
here. Like, she never said anything like that in the dub.
No.
No.
So it'll be interesting to
What
see.
do you like that dynamic more? Like Alia just
I,
more.
I
I mean,
don't like. I
we
can't.
kind of liked calm, cool, collected Alia, right?
You know, so the thing is, like, that's what's so great about Aya. Like, she's just like chill. Like, her best friend's like crazy, and she's just like, okay, Marinette, chill.
Yeah, and she
And like,
still is to a certain extent here, but like not as much, you know.
well, it's nice to have this dynamic where like she follows Ladybug, and like she's a real big fan, but she's somewhere in the middle between like hyper crazy fan and like Chloe in the closet, like playing in the dress up, like costume crap. Like, she's a nice middle,
Oh,
and
I
it's
forgot about Chloe. I missed
and
Chloe
it's
this episode.
Chloe was nowhere to be found.
Adrian wasn't in the episode until 15 minutes in. Anyway, continue.
Like, yeah. It's a different dynamic. I think it's a nice dynamic to have. Like this, like, she loves Ladybug. She's a big fan, but she's not like a total like weirdo about it. So I don't know.
It's
We'll
definitely a
have to
different
see.
dynamic. We'll see. Let us know your thoughts about this.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then she runs back outside, and then there's smiles, and then there's much gay laughing at the end. Is how I
Yes.
characterize
Very
that.
so gay.
You
I
would
think this.
characterize this laughing as very gay, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. This entire scene was just so gay. I think this ending panel was also gayer than like the last one where we were
Yeah.
like, oh my god, Alia.
Where would we rank this in terms of Moralia episodes? Second?
This might be. Oh, I almost want to say this is number one. Like, granted, it's hard to say this is number one because we can say this is number one given the context of what.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
One or two.
Real talk for a second, because real talk for a second. So I have zero confidence that they're actually going to explore any sort of romantic thing
No,
between them.
it's not going to happen ever.
Yeah. I
Granted,
wonder if they're trying
we watched
to.
Laura, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The show hasn't demonstrated progressive themes.
No. Well, the thing is, the show we've also like, there's also all that talk of like what this show is really gonna be like, and it's like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it changes next season, then maybe it'll be different.
Like, who knows?
I also just don't know. Like, is this? Are we honestly not supposed to interpret like this last scene as any sort of romantic? Like, I guess I could see how it wouldn't be, but I don't know. To me, this is like towing the line between what a lot of people would probably incorrectly call queer baiting and like normal in friendship portrayal. It's just hard to tell what they're really trying. Here.
It's really hard because like I'm gay and I interact with my best friends and and like very similar in this fashion. But then I also interact differently with people who I'm interested in. So like it's a very like
it's hard in real life too, right?
It's hard in real life. Like it's a real and that's the thing what I love about the relationship in general. Is just their friendship is just so real. Like and it's great. Like and because they don't have like the really annoying like friendship struggles they always do for teenage girls, where it's like over some boy. And even though Marinette is like super into Adrian, like it doesn't really like injure their friendship in any way, which is great because like that's a really annoying trope that people do.
Yeah, and kind of basic progressive concept here is that this is confusing, the difference between like intense like platonic and any sort of romantic, and society deals with that by like ignoring the existence of anything but straight romances. So it's like society like tries to make it easier by saying, okay, when men interact with women, it's romantic, and when you interact with people of same sex, it's purely platonic, right? And it's to the extent where many people watch media and just ship any two opposite sex pairings they see and find it impossible to see same sex pairings in that same light, just purely because of these boundaries that are entrenched in societal views.
Well, you literally watch TV and it's like the first like I was watching Stitchers. Like I watched the first 3 episodes. My mom still watches the show, and I was watching it, and I was like, "This is really interesting." Well, it's just this interesting show, and it has a really interesting premise. But then it's like, okay, main character, female protagonist, she's awesome. I like her. Like she's great. And then they introduce this guy, and I'm like, great, I found the love interest. And I got real irritated. And then of course I kept watching, and I was like, of course this is the way they're going. And like that's what. And even if they didn't like play the Marinette and Adrian thing so much, like people there, you would just naturally ship them because that's what they do. It's really irritating.
So I guess ignoring Adrian even for a second, like, so here's the problem. It's like what we're seeing on the screen could totally be the beginnings of a romantic relationship where they just consciously choose to pivot to that, like those are the two characters at some point. Like you could very easily see it happening. They're very close. At the same time, if the creators of the show and the writers are those types of people that I mentioned before who purely view things in sort of strict male female societal lenses, then they would write this and they'd be like, "What, we didn't intend it to be anything but platonic at all, right?"
Yeah,
Because like they could like they accidentally or venture into this other area and just have no idea that they're doing it because they like can't view outside of strict lenses. So I honestly don't know which it is. I mean, I know it's not them actively building towards
yeah,
them being a couple, but it could be that they're like ship teasing both things. And
it's
they
true.
it kind of seems like they are ship teasing this at the ends, like when they make it the thing at the ends, and when they have what they've had in previous episodes. At the same time, it also seems like on the same time you interpret another way to interpret it is like, okay, we want this to be girl power, so we're gonna have this friendship, and we're gonna make sure we emphasize the friendship, even though we also have the significant romantic aspect to it with a guy. So just like I honestly could see it both ways, and my skepticism says that it's purely the latter. And almost everything I can tell about the show wouldn't indicate that they really want to go down this anything but a super straight route. But it's just uh, like I don't know what the conclusion is, but um, it's I think that it's what the portrayal we're getting is interesting for sure.
What's really interesting about it is that like as much as everyone ships Lady Noir or Adrian and Marinette, like it's there isn't really much there like to it's just like Marinette really likes him and then like Adrian really likes
It's not like
whatever.
we're seeing an active romance on the screen,
Yeah, that's the
right?
thing. It's just like
It's
and
all feelings, right? So
yeah, and like in all honesty, like and half the time it's not really present. Like yes, like Marinette, it's like oh Adrian, but like it's just like I don't know, like I think I've like it's actually kind of refreshing given I'm so used to like overt like heteronormative romance on like shows like this. But they really like there isn't really much going on in general. But I mean, meanwhile, we have like the super strong friendship that is constant. Like, and we were
this
talking
is the
about there's
real
a lot of
relationship
episodes.
we're seeing on
Yeah,
screen, right?
like this
So
is
it's
like their
totally a
friendship is
reasonable
stellar.
interpretation.
Yeah,
This is
like they spend
real.
so much time together and like and it's just like Alia being like, why don't you just like Merida and Adrian don't hang out. Like
No,
this is the first
yeah.
time I think they've really like hung out outside of school. Like
The closest analog to Alia and Marinette is Ladybug and Cat Noir, right? And
yeah.
they kind of purely are, and Marinette kind of actively pushes away from that too.
Yeah.
So
So,
it's I don't know. I just
like we're not crazy.
here's the argument for Maralia. This is not a trying to see things. I in the beginning, I kind of maybe would have said that this is just us,
Being
shipping the
like,
two
where's the
girls,
gay?
right?
Yeah.
But I think the show has made it clear at this point that this is like a legitimate thing, or from my perspective, this is the show was made it clear that this is like a legitimate shipping option.
Well, at the very least, you can't argue that this is the strongest, like most developed like relationship on the show.
For sure, and
Platonic or
it's kind of been
platonic.
shocking to me how much time they've devoted to it. This is like three endings we've gotten with them too.
Well, we talk about it all the time. We're like, oh man, an Alia episode. This is so good. Like, we don't get Adrian episodes. Like,
And I think that their motivation is to like try to approach the show from a feminist lens and
yeah,
have Alia or Marinette's friendship with her female best friend be more important than her giant crush.
yeah,
But
which is good, which is
which
great.
is
I
good on its
appreciate
own.
this.
There's problems in purely viewing from that lens because then you just
Yes.
get super heteronormative. But
Well, the thing is, like, it's so interesting that like people ship it so much because like, who even is Adrian? Like, there isn't really a lot to Adrian's character at the moment.
right. Yeah,
Like,
and
he's just
this is
there.
another episode that we've commented on this before, and I've gotten a little bit of pushback, but yeah, I mean, Adrian's not in the episode for 15 minutes. This isn't uncommon.
And
I
like, and again, what people don't like, it's like, yeah, we get Cat Noir, but like, again, Cat Noir a lot of the time is just like doing whatever Ladybug tells him and says cat puns.
I think that I think that Marinette's our main character, and then I
Yep.
would say that our secondary tier of main characters would be Adrian and Alia.
Yeah.
Like I think that they've had similar amounts of screen time. Adrian and Alia.
Yeah. No, I would agree.
Yeah, even if you include Cat Noir as Adrian, like I think that they've
Yeah.
been on screen. So I don't know. It
And it,
like again, I think that's them consciously saying like we want to build this friendship up.
yeah. I
Who
mean, if we
knows?
were
Maybe they'll surprise us next season, though. I don't know.
yep, who knows? I mean, no, we never thought we'd get Korosami, and it happened.
Yeah.
So
This is complicated. Let us know your thoughts on this. I don't know. It's.
and I know we're super like negative on like everyone's favorite ship, but it's like
I
I
mean, I
personally
don't think we're
don't get
being
it.
negative about the ship right now. Like,
Yeah, I don't. It's just also we're also several episodes behind, which I do admit to. We are very behind on like we are not up to date on the show.
we'll see.
So
We'll see when we get there.
who knows?
I doubt we would see that
Yeah,
much advancement.
there's not going to be that much different. Well, the thing is, like, none of these episodes are like in order anyway. Like, we don't really have a lot of actual progression.
Right.
Like, events aren't
So
really.
this is our halfway point. So we're going to be 13 episodes behind now.
Woo.
Only 2 of those are actually like plot episodes, the Origins ones. So.
Oh right, the origin episode.
Okay. Overall, I would say upper mid-tier episode.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was better than good. It's not necessarily the best
I don't know if
episode
it was
ever.
better than good, but I don't know what that means.
Well, I mean, we talk about this episode. You complain all the time about
If you don't
all
know
our
about my
shows.
tiers, then better than good just makes no sense.
I wasn't referring to your stupid tears.
Oh, you weren't?
Oh my god.
Okay.
No, what I was saying was we talk about our well, you complain a lot about how sometimes the shows that we watch like aren't consistent. Ladybug is consistent,
Yes,
and I would say this is like it's been like these episodes have been good,
This is
decent,
another.
and
This is another
better than
notch in
average.
better. Well, I think the average is now this quality, like this type of episode. This is maybe slightly above that, but
That's what I'm.
yeah.
This is. I thought this was sligly
Okay,
above
I agree.
the rest.
Cool. So we'll be back next week. I don't know what the next one is. Discussing Kung Food. Okay, so this is a bad time to take a break.
What? Oh god.
Because like the break in for the people who are watching the episodes as they aired would have been after the Mime and before Kung Fu, but we took our break after Darkblade and before the Mime, so whatever. I think we're gonna try to and then we'll watch Kung Fu in French because it hasn't aired in Korean, so there's that. Yeah, the airing for this show is the worst, and I think like apparently the last episode is gonna air in Canada before before France. I don't know. I think I've heard that. We'll see what happens. So
this makes zero sense.
I'm Dylan Nice, and that's Delaney Stovall. Overlyanimated.com is where you can find us. Please subscribe to us on iTunes if you have not. There's a Miraculous Ladybug specific feed on iTunes if you just want to subscribe to our Miraculous Ladybug podcast. And please leave us, if you enjoy these podcasts, please leave us a review on iTunes. I'd prefer you do that on our main feed.
We love iTunes.
Not on the Miraculous Ladybug feed. We love iTunes.
Reviews.
And I mean, maybe you love iTunes. I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of old fashioned.
It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
It's old fashioned.
It's like saying pound it when you defeat a villain, right? It's just like 5 years ago,
I'm done.
Let us
been
comment,
so emotionally
comments on
draining.
the YouTube video. People tend to do that for our Miraculous Ladybug ones. I will probably respond if YouTube comments are not being dumb for me. And we really appreciate the feedback. There's a lot of high concept stuff we talked about. You can, if you really want to help us out, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. There's no ads on this podcast. Not necessarily because I wouldn't put ads on it. I probably would, but there's no ads, so our only source of revenue right now is our patrons. So thank you very much to Shayna, Mitch, Cordell, Beatrice, Nate, Andy, Jamie, Rachel, and John, aka Hey Nephew, Merch Gun Over Sea Beach Exchange, Buzz Lightyear, Mailman, Rachel Rose. Have you come up with a nickname for John in the day since we've last recorded?
Do you think I even thought
So,
about it for
to be
like more than 5
determined.
minutes? No.
Wow, that was just insulting. Like to the
I
sanctity
know-
of the patrons.
Every time I suggest something, you say no. It's Sam is the one who gives the nicknames. That's how it's always
I think
been.
if you looked at these nicknames, that these are not all Sam's nicknames. So
I think you let me do Ruby. You let me do Rachel
you
Rose.
you got the last one that happened. Come on.
So what? So that now I have to. Oh my god! Fine, I will.
Yeah.
You give us no material, and you're like make a nickname.
What animated Johns are there? Okay, we'll figure this out. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you. Oh, we're gonna put these up somewhere between Thursday and Sunday, probably every week. No, weekends are better.
Whenever we feel like recording.
I mean, we're not
this
gonna be
is
like
happen.
we're not shoehorned into when Nick decides to air the episode this week, so whenever.
Right.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.